The night it happened, fear ran faster than hope, and the sound of boots pounding against cracked pavement echoed like a warning the city had forgotten how to hear. A defenseless woman ran through a dimly lit street, her breath tearing at her chest, her heart screaming louder than her footsteps. She did not know who would save her, or if anyone would. She only knew that behind her, cruelty had found legs, and ahead of her, the darkness felt endless. Before the story pulls you any deeper, take a moment and do something powerful. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that strangers can still be heroes, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still searching for light. Her name was Rebecca Turner, a 32-year-old woman living in a forgotten corner of Ohio, where factories once breathed life into the town but now stood silent like abandoned giants. Rebecca worked late shifts at a nursing facility, saving every dollar to rebuild a life that had collapsed after years of bad choices made by others. That night, she had taken a shortcut through a neglected industrial road, believing speed mattered more than safety. She was wrong. The men who noticed her were not drunk with alcohol, but with power, and they fed off the way fear reshaped her face when she realized she was not alone anymore. They laughed as they followed her, their voices sharp and careless, the kind that came from people who had never been told no in a way that mattered. Rebecca ran, her worn sneakers slipping on loose gravel, her hands trembling as she clutched her bag like it could shield her from what was coming. Every step drained her strength, and every breath reminded her that no one had ever come running for her before. She thought of her mother, gone too soon. She thought of the promise she made to survive. She wondered if this was where that promise would break. The road curved toward an abandoned gas station, its rusted sign creaking in the wind. Rebecca stumbled, scraping her knee, pain flaring bright and sharp. She forced herself up, tears blurring her vision. The men were closer now, close enough that she could smell smoke and cheap cologne. Her legs began to fail, and panic wrapped around her throat like a tightening rope. In that moment, she prayed silently, not for revenge, not even for justice, but simply for someone to see her. What Rebecca did not know was that a few blocks away, thunder was rolling in from a different direction. It was not the sky, but engines. A group of bikers was riding back from a charity run for veterans, leather jackets marked with faded patches and crosses stitched by hands that believed faith could still ride beside rebellion. The group included Michael Harris, a former Marine who found peace only on open roads, Thomas Reed, a mechanic who rebuilt engines and broken men, Caleb Moore, a quiet giant with a past full of mistakes, and Samuel Brooks, the oldest among them, whose silver beard hid decades of loss and forgiveness. They heard the sound before they saw anything, a scream that cut through the hum of engines and went straight into the marrow of their bones. Michael lifted his hand, and the group slowed without a word. Years of brotherhood had taught them how to move as one. As they turned down the cracked road, headlights sliced through darkness and revealed a scene that ignited something fierce and protective in their chests. A woman, bleeding, shaking, cornered by men who mistook cruelty for courage. The bikes roared forward, not as weapons, but as warnings. Engines screamed like a promise that the night was no longer theirs to control. The men chasing Rebecca froze, confusion flashing across their faces as the ground trembled beneath the weight of something they did not expect. The bikers positioned themselves between the woman and her pursuers, their presence calm, solid, and unmovable. There were no threats spoken, no fists raised. Their silence was louder than violence, and it carried the weight of men who had already faced worse and survived. Rebecca collapsed to the ground, sobbing, her body finally allowing fear to pour out. Samuel knelt beside her, removing his jacket and draping it gently over her shoulders, his movements slow and deliberate, like a father calming a frightened child. Michael stood tall, his eyes locked on the men who now backed away, realizing that the game they started was over. The bullies disappeared into the shadows, their laughter replaced by the sound of retreat. An ambulance arrived, lights painting the broken street red and blue, and police followed soon after. Rebecca was treated for her injuries, minor compared to what could have been, but the deeper wounds were invisible. As she sat on the curb, wrapped in leather and warmth, she looked at the bikers with disbelief. These were men she had been taught to fear, men society often painted as dangerous. Yet they were the only ones who stopped. In the days that followed, Rebecca could not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard footsteps and engines. But she also remembered the way the bikers stood, not as saviors seeking praise, but as strangers who simply refused to look away. She reached out through the police report, asking to thank them. When she met them again, this time in daylight at a small roadside diner, the world felt different. The fear had not vanished, but it no longer owned her. Michael spoke little, but his presence was grounding. Thomas made her laugh without trying. Caleb listened without judgment. Samuel prayed quietly over the meal, thanking God for protection and purpose. Rebecca realized that heroism did not always wear clean suits or speak polished words. Sometimes it rode in on loud engines and carried scars you could not see. Months passed, and Rebecca's life slowly changed. She started volunteering at a local shelter, helping women who had stories like hers or worse. She walked taller, not because the world had become safer, but because she had learned that goodness still existed, often where least expected. The bikers continued their rides, never boasting about that night, never calling themselves heroes. To them, it was simply what you did when someone needed help. Just before this story reaches its end, I want to ask you something important. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe that kindness can still rise in dark places. Your comment might be the encouragement someone else needs today. And now, near the end, if this story touched your heart even a little, if it reminded you that strangers can become angels in moments of fear, please like this video, share it, and leave a heartfelt comment. Your engagement tells the world that stories of compassion still matter. Rebecca never saw that road the same way again, but she no longer avoided it either. Every scar on the pavement reminded her that while evil can chase you, it does not always win. Somewhere out there, engines still roar through the night, carrying men who believe that strength means standing between fear and the defenseless. And for Rebecca, and for anyone who has ever run from darkness, that knowledge was enough to keep going.